Alright, how are we doing today? Time for some commentary on California. Okay, so, from Reason, Free Minds, Free Markets, it says, the marijuana black market will keep its throne in California thanks to tax increases. When the government tries to hoover up all the money earned from legalized drugs, this is what happens. You know what the legal marijuana industry in California doesn't need? Higher prices. But even though black market pot sales already outnumber legal purchases by nearly a 3-to-1 margin, a state agency is jacking up its taxes on marijuana. The new rates are scheduled to start with the new year. Marijuana taxes will increase in two ways. The first involves the state's 15% excess tax, which is calculated based on how much marijuana vendors mark up the price of retail sales to cover their costs and make a profit. The California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, or CDTFA, researched average marijuana retail prices across the state and it determined that the sales have been marked up 80% from wholesale costs. This is an increase from the previous markup calculations of 60%, so the state will be demanding a larger chunk of money and from every retail marijuana sale. The second increase is an inflation adjustment for cultivation taxes. The tax on dry leaves, for example, will increase from $2.75 to $2.87 per pounce. Neither of these tax increases is subject to vote from lawmakers. The inflation adjustment was baked into the legislation passed in 2017. Indeed, all of these relatively inflexible guidelines were built into law that tried to guarantee that state and local government would get lots of revenue out of a new legal industry. Meanwhile, experts estimated that black market marijuana vendors will bring in $8.7 billion in revenue in 2019 compared to $3 billion from legal sales. The state has had to adjust revenue projections downward because it failed to predict how the high costs it was imposing would keep consumers away from legal weed. Marijuana Business Daily reports that members of the industry immediately criticized the move, as did Oakland Democrat Rob Bonta, a state assembly member who has twice tried but failed to lower marijuana taxes through the legislature. In an emailed statement, Bonta called the tax hike deeply concerning. This short-sighted more ignores the realities that licensed businesses are at the breaking point, with many struggling to survive, Bonta wrote, and reiterated his support for at least temporarily lowering state cannabis taxes. The California Cannabis Industry Association, or CCIA, said the increase left its members stunned and outraged. As California's regulated market spirals toward collapse from taxes on cannabis consumers, we believe that the CDTFA's decision to increase tax burdens on compliant cannabis operators is counter to developing a safe industry, according to the association's statement. You got that right. And the funny thing about these politicians who are always raising on taxes or everything, they think they got all their bases covered, but one very critical base is not covered. The consumer pocketbook. You're assuming that they can afford the raised prices, when many times they simply cannot. Oh, sure, they might be able to afford it short term, but long term? No. That's why they would go to a black market vendor that is much cheaper and maybe even lower quality, sometimes to the point where the black market product could even kill, like in the case of the black market vape cartridges, another issue created by the government's interference. Just stay out of the marketplace. You have no business there. You have no idea what you're doing. Literally half or more of at least 50% of the politicians in Washington, D.C. are not economists. They have no idea how economics works. The fact that they never took any time to study it shows that they are simply unelectable, in my opinion. Politicians need to understand basic economics. The system will work a lot better if they do. And you don't need these taxes anyway, because the fact that the business alone exists within the state of California will increase revenue. But no, this will only accelerate California's spiral into destruction. Question is, can the government bail them out? Will anyone be able to prevent the entire state from going bankrupt? For that matter, should we even bother? Maybe this will be a painful lesson for them and it'll wake them up. People will be able to look at the example of the state of California and realize, okay, these policies don't work. Let's not do what they did. But going ahead, earlier in the month, 60 Minutes reported how the absurdly high cost of trying to legally grow weed and marijuana has fostered a black market and ensured that many legal vendors cannot make a profit. that state's response from Governor Gavin Newsom and Attorney General Xavier Becerra, both Democrats, has been a launch a new drug war to try to crack down on the black market. It is not unlike Newsom's apparent bafflement that increasing gas taxes in California caused the price of gasoline to rise. The new taxes will be yet another kick in the teeth of anybody trying to legally sell or buy marijuana in California. A spokesperson from Newsom's office responded to Marijuana's Business Daily with a bland claim that they want to simplify compliance for everyone involved in the support to healthy legal market. But the policies the administration is forcing do the exact opposite of that. Yeah, say hello to the new war on drugs, which is sure to ruin or possibly even end some people's lives, as the previous had done. Like I said, if a politician doesn't understand economics at all, and that's usually most of the time, as far as I'm concerned, they are simply unelectable. They just don't know what the hell they're doing. Get them out of there. So just like every single politician in this country grows more and more unpalatable for election by the day. The Democrats, fastest of all. But that does not exclude the Republicans or even the LP. Because the LP, or so-called Libertarian Party, they're not libertarians, they're lolbatarians. They sort of purport this notion of being half conservative, half liberal nonsense, which is not the libertarian message. It has nothing to do with left or right. It has to do with top or bottom. Are you a libertarian or are you an authoritarian? Do you believe in freedom or do you believe in control? But they're not staying on message. They're flip-flopping. There aren't really any politicians in this country, let alone in California, worth voting for anymore at this point. Very few, if there are any. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it. If you do not approve of this government, then I think not voting is a perfectly legitimate form of protest. You don't like the government? Don't vote. And make it clear why you're not voting. These people suck. Anyway, peace.